Hi everyone, welcome to my week 1 discussion post video. It's Wednesday. I wanted to join you all tonight, but unfortunately there was a death in the family, and so I have family staying with me currently, and we're just kind of making our way through the week the best that we can. But I wanted to post a video and give you guys an update on what I'm doing in the horizon. So the first prompt, I applied to the clinical licensed marriage and family therapy track at George Fox University. We find out in March about interviews, and then the final decisions are made in May. So I'll be graduating and finding out about grad school all in the same month. This is a nervous smile, but I feel at peace about it. It's where I want to be. I've loved my experience at George Fox, and I want my education to continue through the master's program. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm also looking forward to volunteering at the local library that we have here in Hillsboro. And I think it'll be a great conducive space for me sensory-wise, and then also just to be out in the community. I think it's a great opportunity for myself. So looking at this week's prompts on cognitive psychology and action, I wanted to focus on education, but before I get into that, I wanted to frame this from a personal lens. So as a neurodivergent person, I've always been acutely aware that my brain processes the world differently. So for me, cognitive psychology, it isn't just a chapter in a textbook, it's a manual for understanding my own lived experience, especially when it comes to how I manage attention and imagery in a world where I often feel uncomfortable being perceived. So attention, imagery, and awareness are things that are interesting to me about the syllabus, and I think that was the third learning objective, and one that I'm really excited to get into. In cognitive psychology, attention is often described as a spotlight. So it's the mechanism that filters out the noise so we can focus on the signal. But however, for many neurodivergent people, that filter can be porous. We might perceive everything at once: the hum of the lights, the texture of our clothes, or the subtle shifts in someone's body language or tone of voice. We're very aware and attuned to micro behaviors. So whether that's positive or negative. This is where mental imagery comes in as a survival tool. So because I don't like being perceived or watched in real time, I use imagery to create mental simulations. I run the tape of a social interaction in my head before it happens. This is how a lot of Gestalt learning happens. This use of anticipatory imagery allows me to gain a sense of control over my environment. By analyzing these functions, I've realized that my awareness of the world isn't too much. It's just a different way of allocating cognitive resources and my bandwidth. So how does this translate to the classroom? When we understand that every student has a different attentional spotlight, we can design education to be more inclusive. Um, so here are two specific examples: scaffolding and cognitive load. Um, Educators use scaffolding to break down complex tasks into manageable chunks. So for someone who is really overwhelmed by the perception of a massive project, scaffolding reduces the cognitive load. It provides a clear roadmap, allowing the brain to focus on one layer of learning at a time without the anxiety of the finished project being judged too soon. I could also see this being extremely helpful for somebody who is pathologically demand avoidant. And then the second example would be dual coding theory. So this theory suggests we process information through two channels, visual and verbal. In education, using both, like a diagram paired with a lecture, creates two separate memory traces. For me, this is vital. So if I'm feeling sensory overload in the verbal channel, having a visual image to fall back on ensures that the information isn't lost. It's being reinforced. It allows for more flexibility and just a more accessible way for me to stay aware of the material. Yeah. Ultimately, cognitive psychology helps us see that there is no standard way to perceive the world, whether it's through managing our attention or using imagery to navigate social spaces. These are all just tools for awareness, and I'm curious, for those of you who also feel a bit hyper aware of your surroundings, do you find yourself using mental imagery to prepare for the world around you? Or do you have other strategies, other coping mechanisms? But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.